Welcome to the New Bedford Free Public Library. I'm Steve Fulcino, the director of the library. We are very honored to have the presentation of the Massachusetts Book Award for Children's and Youth Literature tonight to Krista Russell, who summers in Mattapoisett and comes from this area. We were hoping to have some speeches before we presented the award, but some of the dignitaries aren't here yet. So actually we're going to start with the presentation of the award. And first off, let me introduce Sharon Shaloo, who is the executive director of the Massachusetts Center for the Book, which runs the book awards. So Sharon.
Thank you, Steve, and thanks very much to the New Bedford Free Public Library, to AHA New Bedford for partnering on this special night. The Massachusetts Center for the Book, I promise you I won't go long, was established in January of 2000, and at that time I didn't need glasses, but now I do. We are one of 50 state centers for the book around the country. We all partner with the Center for the Book in the Library of Congress to do outreach programming through libraries to support books and reading. Books, reading, literacy, and libraries is our four-pronged mission. The Center for the Book in Massachusetts takes as its special mission to bring writers and readers together to talk about books that matter to the lives that we share in Massachusetts. And we do this in a couple of different ways. We run a student reading and writing initiative in the fall called Letters About Literature for grades 4 through 12. We ask students to write letters to authors about books that have made a major impact on their lives. We also, and we have a wonderful event in the spring at the State House, bringing students to the State House to talk about the books that matter to them. We also have taken on as a special project to inventory the literary and historical sites of Massachusetts, the literary house museums, the monuments to authors, the final resting places. I don't know. I'm an author resting place nerd, I have to say. I don't know if any of you are, with the little rubbings and things you take away. But anyway, we started out thinking how wonderful it would be if we could chart 100 literary sites in Massachusetts. And then we got to the point after a couple of months where we thought, gee, wouldn't it be great if we could limit it to 100 literary sites in Massachusetts? Finally, the map got so large that we decided we better just start putting these online. I think we're up to about 350 sites, and we haven't stopped. New things keep getting added all the time, and eventually we're going to have an interactive trail that you can go through Massachusetts. But for now, if you visit us at massbook.org, you can see the beginnings of all of these things. There are a couple of New Bedford sites on the map, and the ferry will then take you to some more on the vineyard. One of the very first programs that we established was the Massachusetts Book Awards. And I'm proud to say, not because it gives us any credit, but because it gives credit to this incredible writing community in our Commonwealth, that we are the largest state book awards in the country. In a given year, we receive about 1/3 the number of books that are submitted to the National Book Award. So if you can imagine, the library community that reads these books is incredibly dedicated. They come up with a list of must-read books that we promote in libraries each summer, and we create posters, and I brought the last year's poster and this year's poster so you can see the must-read books. We also do downloadable information about the books from our website, and we create reading and discussion guides, because this is a program that's not only about conferring honor on books, but it's about getting these books read and getting them talked about, because a book has latent potential until it's read and then talked about among readers. And so we consider this part of the way that we strengthen the circle of readers in Massachusetts. And I'm always astonished by the quality and the extent of the submissions. The Chasing the Nightbird that you're going to hear about in a minute was the unanimous and overwhelming and nearly immediate choice of the judges for the year. They were completely blown away, not only by the setting in New Bedford and by the history that came through, but by the incredible power of the fiction. And before I go on to present the award, and then we're going to hear from the guest of honor and less from me, I did want to say something else about the reading and discussion guides. They are commissioned by and they're done by Massachusetts librarians throughout the Commonwealth, and the coordinator who does yeoman's duty on this, or yeowoman's duty on coordinating these guides, is here, and her name's Lori Kavanaugh. She's the director of the Holmes Library in Halifax, and the fun thing that she added to these guides, so the ones that Lori's been coordinating for the past couple of years, have related New England travel section, so that you can, after you read Chasing the Nightbird, you can go to these selected sites around here to get some more information. Anyway, I hope you'll visit our site. I hope you learn more about the center. And please take some bookmarks, take some posters, and take some reading guides and promote this book among your circle of readers. So, Krista, I would like to formally give you the Massachusetts Book Award in Children's and Young Adult Literature for Chasing the Nightbird. This was published by Peachtree Publishers, and happily they have brought some books here so that we can give them to you to take home. Chasing the Nightbird follows a feisty 14-year-old boy, Lucky Valera, as he grapples with kidnappings, moral dilemmas, and exciting escapes on the 1851 New Bedford waterfront. This adventure tale grabs us immediately with the historical lore of whale ships, textile mills, the Underground Railroad. Yet it's the twists and turns of family betrayal, unexpected friendships, and the Cape Verdean immigrant experience which hold our attention and prompt our deeper consideration long after Lucky finishes his chase. Thank you so much. Presented on July 11th. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon. It's such a huge honor to be here and to have won this award. And I wasn't aware that, that the choice was unanimous, and that's amazing. I feel so lucky to have grown up in an area so rich in history, and there's so many stories here. The city has done such a great job with preserving its history, and I feel like my book was really born on the decks of the Lagoda in the Whaling Museum a lot of years ago. I don't want to tell you how many, but it's so easy to picture in New Bedford what it was like over 100 years ago. It really, you can walk down the cobblestone streets and see the amazing architecture. You can even see the rails on the street where the whale oil barrels were moved up and down from the wharf, and the gas lights. It's just such an amazing place, and I'm so proud to be from here. I wanted to begin by reading just a little bit, and I know I have books here today. I don't want to do any spoilers, but I thought if I read a little bit from the beginning, just to give you a quick feel for what I saw in New Bedford, and to set the scene for the story. And my main character is Lucky Valera. He's a 13-year-old whaleman. Lucky pulled his cap down, hoisted his duffel, and walked quickly over the dawn-lit cobbles, eager to get to the wharf where the Nightbird waited. Feeling undone as a frayed line, he yearned to get back to sea. Now that Pa was gone, the ship's hands were his only friends in this unfamiliar city. And though it was still a week from his 14th birthday, he'd be sailing as a full member of the crew this time, not a lowly cabin boy. He breathed in the early morning sea air and the smell of whale oil and tar. A movement in the shadow of an alleyway caught his eye. A big black cat. Lucky smiled, relieved to see a good omen. The creature padded across the street, staring up at him with unblinking yellow eyes. Between his teeth, still squirming, was a large gray rat. "Bully for you," he called after it. "One less vermin on the wharf, one less bunkmate on the Nightbird." He continued down the road, past the mostly dark shop windows and under a succession of wooden signs hanging over the storefronts. A boot, a bottle, an anvil, a candle. Each sign indicated what manner of goods was traded inside. The bakery window cast a lone rectangle of gold onto the street. The smell of fresh bread made his mouth water. The road began to slope more steeply toward the waterfront. Lucky stepped onto one of the iron rails that ran along the side, parallel to the stones. It comforted him to know that just yesterday, barrels of provisions for the Nightbird had rolled along these tracks. He wondered what victuals awaited for the first meal aboard. Roasted beef, fried potato, maybe a bit of plum duff. Of course, it would all be downhill from there as far as the quality of the rations. The first meal was always the best. A shrill screech split the air, loud enough to make his ears ring. Whistles were a bad omen to sailors, but this one boded ill for the landlubbers as well, particularly for the poor souls under the employ of the textile mill. The whistle was a muster, tearing the mill workers from their beds and sending them trudging off to the huge buildings that rose from the marshland beside the Acushnet River. They'd labor all day, then lumber home, only to rise again to the same mournful sound, the same dreadful fate. Lucky shook his head. How could a body tote such a cussed load? So that's how the story starts. And not very long after that, Lucky finds that he's going to be stuck in New Bedford, and not only that, but working in a mill himself. So when I first thought of the idea for the story, it really did start as I wanted to write a story about a whaleman. I started out interested in what I'd learned at the Whaling Museum, but when I got into researching the history, there was really so much more here. There was the huge Quaker population, and they were the start of the abolitionist movement. The fact that whaling was such hard and dangerous work, it was a very egalitarian society. So the men who were whalemen were really judged on their ability rather than their skin color, religion, ethnic origin. So it became a job that fugitive slaves from the South were able to come to New Bedford and find jobs on whale ships and on the docks. And New Bedford became a huge beacon for fugitives, and it had the largest population of fugitive slaves in the U.S., a greater proportion in New Bedford in the 1850s than either New York or Boston. And I was really interested in that and how the society on a whale ship became what it was and was egalitarian, whereas the society on land wasn't so much. And then another thing going on in New Bedford, even though it was the golden age of whaling during that time, was that the economy was changing and textile mills were being built, and the nature of the economy in New Bedford was changing. You had mill workers, and there was that tug and many different identities, and then along comes the Fugitive Slave Act. And that was something that made people, and many people in the North had no experience with slavery. It was an issue that they really didn't deal with, and they saw it as not connected to them. But when the Fugitive Slave Act came, it made people in the North responsible for returning fugitives to owners in the South. And many law-abiding citizens weren't willing to do that. And so it was a huge shift in the national politics. And I just found researching all of this really interesting. And the way things came together in New Bedford, it was such a melting pot and so much on the forefront of abolitionism that this time in U.S. history, I think, is really important and I loved researching the book.
Before I give the podium back to Steve. The one thing I didn't mention about these books, besides getting them read, is that they are deposited in special collections at our state library and become part of the literary heritage of our Commonwealth. And we have to thank for the creation of that special depository, your New Bedford Public Library and Steve Fulchino, who opened that depository when he was the state librarian, and I meant to say that before we started, so.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Krista. That was really a wonderful speech you gave, and I think we're all very happy. Now we have Mayor Mitchell, who would like to talk for a minute or two about the Massachusetts Book Awards and New Bedford, of course, which he always talks about. Mayor Mitchell.
All right, thank you, Steve. Sure. Let me begin by congratulating Krista on writing a terrific book, one that I will impose upon you to sign so that I can bring home to my kids and they can devour. I think they will love this book. And I will love this book once they get done reading it. But what's gratifying for us is really the thoughtful and loving delivery of our story, the sharing of our story. New Bedford, in many ways, is unique in American history for a lot of the reasons that you outlined. And I can, the hyper-egalitarianism of the Quakers and of the nature of the whaling enterprise just made it just such an unusual place, a beacon for fugitive slaves, but also just a fascinating place that really colors the way we are today. If you think about whaling, in many ways it's the quintessential American enterprise. And the audacity of which is really unrivaled by any other industry. Think about it. It entailed going out on wooden boats with hand tools to kill the biggest creatures in the sea. You had to be very courageous and really audacious to go off for 3 years and risk your life to do just that. But it was an enterprise that was full of fantastic stories. And you think of the world in 1851 as a place where the idea of going to Tahiti or Maui or one of these places was beyond the imagination of most folks. Nobody was doing their honeymoons in those places back then. And the stories that whalers returned with to this place made it a fertile environment for artists, made it a fertile environment for democracy. We just had the rededication of the whaleman statue a couple of weeks ago, and the benefactor of that statue was William Wallace Crapo, who was the last homegrown congressman from New Bedford. And one of the things that he commented on growing up in a period, the later part of the whaling era, is that when whalemen came back here, the community benefited tremendously from their presence. They had perspective. People respected them in the same way that people, in a way that's similar at least to the way people respect veterans when they return home. When they speak in public, people listen. People respected them for the experiences they had gone through, that they had seen a part of life that others hadn't seen. And I think in many ways, because the town and then the city grew up around this industry, it became sort of a very unique place. And that's something that we're proud of today. That's what makes us, we're all a little idiosyncratic here, and that's a really good thing. And in America, that is becoming more homogenous. So that's what excites me about the story. And I agree, there are so many other stories of this place to be told. And I think you're pulling on a thread right now that really has a very, very rich source. And so I thank you for doing such a bang-up job on it, and congratulations on the award. And I can't wait to read it. We have a little bit of something for you to commemorate the occasion. This is, our city's commemorative pen. We also have another YA book by Clara Stites, whom you may have read this already, but it's Naming the Stones, and if you haven't read it yet, I think you'll enjoy that too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Krista.
Okay, thank you. Senator Montigny could not be here tonight, but we have a representative from his office, Jacob Miller. Yes, someone took my little sheet with your name on it, but I did remember what it was. So, thank you, Jacob.
Hello. As Steve said, my name is Jacob Miller, and I'm representing Senator Mark Montigny's office. The senator wishes he could be here and really wants to extend his deepest congratulations to you, Krista, for this fantastic book and for winning this honorable award. He really loves the city, and he really thinks that the city is well represented by your book. So he wants to congratulate you. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more speaker, but before we do that, we had two trustees here tonight. One was the mayor, who is the chairman of the trustees ex officio, and the other is Lee Blake, who is over here, so I wanted to introduce her. Our final speaker, I would guess, is going to be a representative, the chairperson of the AHA Steering Committee? Right. Nelson Hockert-Lotz, and I'm sure everybody from New Bedford knows who Nelson is. So.
Well, thank you, Steve. I just wanted to note how special it is to have Krista Russell here on an AHA night. AHA stands for art, history, and architecture, but also that moment of discovery and even moment of epiphany, the aha moment. History is made up of events and place. Much as Krista's book, it was also certainly made up of our stories. And AHA provides a vibrant community stage for those stories to really come alive. New Bedford is, of course, a many-storied city, and the tales of Herman Melville's Moby Dick and Frederick Douglass's narratives provide sturdy underpinnings for Krista Russell's Chasing the Nightbird. And on behalf of the AHA Steering Committee, I just want to say very quickly that we are very honored to have Krista Russell here tonight, and to have her honored with the presentation of the Massachusetts Book Award here in this historic library above the cobblestone streets that appear in her book on an AHA night. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Krista Russell.
Okay, so that's the end of the speeches, and there are only two things left. Yeah, there's free books. Krista will sign them for you, so create a line. And then there's refreshments out in the hallway. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Every day, you hear about scammers, hackers, and thieves trying to use the internet to steal your money and your financial information. The fact is, you, me, we can foil many of their attempts. Every day, we do things to make it tough for bad guys to break into our homes and our cars. We can make it tougher for them to break into our computers, too. Here are some ways to foil a hacker and protect your financial information. Install security software on your computer. Well-known companies offer plenty of free options. Set the software to update automatically, so it can deal with any new security threats. While you're at it, set your operating system and web browser to update automatically too. If you're not sure how, use the help function and search for automatic updates. If you get a phone call, an email, a text, or a pop-up that says your computer has a virus or malware, don't buy the story or the security software they're selling. It could be a trick to get you to buy software that's worthless or even harmful. Treat your financial information like cash. It's a hot commodity. If someone asks for your financial information, say your social security, credit card, or bank account number, ask why they need it and how they're going to protect it. If you think you found a good deal online, but you aren't familiar with the company, dig a little deeper. A quick internet search with the name of the company and the word review or complaint can reveal a lot. Always look for a physical address and phone number too. That way you know who to contact if there's a problem. Don't provide your personal or financial information unless the website you're on is secure. If the URL doesn't start with HTTPS, don't enter your financial information. That S stands for secure. It means the information you're sending is encrypted and protected. Make your passwords count. They should be at least 10 characters, and a mix of numbers, letters, and special characters. Don't use your name, birth date, or common words. Don't use the same password for several accounts, as tempting as that may be. If it's stolen, hackers can use it to access your other accounts. Keep your passwords in a secure place, and don't share them with anyone. Back up your computer files. For example, copy important files to an external hard drive on a regular basis. That way, if there's a problem with your computer, you won't lose everything. Life is online. Whether you live it using a smartphone, a tablet, a laptop, or a desktop, it's a good time to make computer security a habit. Find out more at onguardonline.gov, the federal government site to help you be safe, secure, and responsible online.
Happy birthday, dear Corinne. Happy birthday to you.
Your choice to recycle can affect more people than you think. Call Marissa at 508-979-1493 to request your free recycling bins. This message was brought to you by the City of New Bedford and UMass Dartmouth Charlton School of Business.